Good evening, all the joinees. Hi, this is Ansu. I welcome you all to the webinars conducted by NGEN Markets. We'll be beginning shortly. By the time the others join in, let's have a look at today's webinar topic. So today specifically we would be focusing on the holding patterns of mutual funds. We would be looking at a trend which shows you on a month-on-month basis the holding of mutual funds into various sectors as well as into various stocks. Followed by that, we would be going forward with an individual funds holding analysis, wherein we'll be able to see the fund's portfolio and how has that portfolio trend been for the last 12 months. We'll be able to see when we go forward with a fund level analysis. Post which, what I would be showing would be a dynamic NAV report, the daily NAV report that gets generated on our platform. You could either come to our platform, take an Excel download of the same, or you could simply subscribe to that NAV report that would get received on your registered mail ID with NGEN. Post which, we would be having a Q&A session. You can either unmute yourself or type down your questions in the chat box. So let us begin. This is our NGEN Markets landing page, the Markets tab. For our today's topic related webinar, I'll move towards the fund section. In the fund section, we have this robust holding analysis column. The very fifth column from screener, query, category average, and EMC, you will be able to see right here, holding analysis. I'll simply click on that. And within this holding analysis, there are these 4 buckets that will show up, 4 tabs. We'll be looking into each of this in detail. There are 4 major tabs under holding analysis: the sector changes, stock changes, equity holdings, and debt holdings. Firstly, the sector changes. So this tab lets you see the trend or investment patterns of mutual funds into various sectors that are mentioned right here. So the second column lets you see the entire list of sectors. Followed by that, you will be able to see which all mutual funds have made investments into which specific sector. So as of now, we are currently focusing on entire equity bucket mutual funds. Now, how did I determine that? That is what has been mentioned right here. Check fund with asset class. Equity as an asset class is something that gets selected by default. You could anytime click on this drop down and change the asset class accordingly. I'll just keep it on equity itself. And now I'll just move towards the extreme right hand side. The latest data would be always available in the extreme right hand side. So right here, if you see just below the date, it has been mentioned as 750. Now this 750 is basically the total number of funds that are under consideration, meaning the total equity asset class funds that we are currently focusing on comes to 750. Now we are trying to look at the investment patterns of these equity mutual funds. Meaning, let's say in IT software as a sector, I could see 11.76 is something that has been mentioned. So this is the average holding of equity mutual funds into IT software as a sector. You want to see where does this investment comes from, or which all are the mutual funds that invest into this sector. You could simply click on that percentage. Once you do that, the entire list of mutual funds that invests into IT software as a sector will show up. You will be able to see the percentage of investment as well as the amount that has been invested to it. Correspondingly, you will be able to see that. And this data could be downloaded in an Excel format as well. Now, as I mentioned, what you will be able to see is basically a trend, meaning in comparison to the previous month, if there has been an increase in investment or if there has been a decrease in investment is what could be seen. Now, towards the very left, you will be able to see the date is 30th June 2023. And towards the extreme right is the latest data. So what we are showing is basically 12 months trend analysis is what we are currently showing. Now here, what you could see is basically a heat map structure, meaning you could see the color green and pink. So green says in comparison to the previous month, there has been an increase in investment, meaning if you just locate into banks as a sector, As on 30th April, the average investments come to a total of 21.32%. But in the very next month, the investment increased to an extent of 21.33. And that is a reason it has been highlighted in color green. And similarly, converse is the color pink, meaning in comparison to the previous month, if there has been a reduction in terms of investment, it will show up in pink. So in finance as a sector, you could see as of 30th April 2024, it was to an extent of 7.78%, which got reduced in the very next month, which came down to 7.6%. And that is the reason it is shown up in pink color. Now, as I mentioned, the latest data is something that you're able to see on the right-hand side, which is as of 31st May 2024. Now, I'll let you know the update cycle on our platform. So the holdings on our platform gets updated from 8th to 13th of the month. Meaning by we reach 14th, you will be able to see the latest holding data for each of the funds that you would be looking upon. Now, currently, as we were focusing on equity asset class, we were looking at an entire universe of 750 funds. Let's say you rather want to shorten this universe that you're currently focusing on. Maybe a specific category of fund is what you want to look at. That bifurcation is also possible right next to this option as check fund with asset class. We have this option called as check fund with SEBI category. So you could input in any SEBI category and see the investment trends done by that mutual funds in that specific SEBI category. So let's say here I'll search for mid-cap funds. Meaning I have rather shortened my universe to mid-cap funds only, meaning only 30 mid-cap funds is currently what I'm focusing on. The trends and investment patterns of these 30 mutual funds only, mid-cap funds. Now, meaning, let's say I'll just select pharmaceutical as a sector. The meaning remains exactly the same. The average holdings now of mid-cap funds only is what we are focusing on. So 6.66% is the average investments of all the mid-cap funds into pharmaceutical as a sector. The step remains the same. You want to see which all mid-cap funds have made investments. You simply click on that specific percentage. You'll be able to see the list of mid-cap funds, the percentage of investments or the percentage, and next to it, you'll be able to see the corresponding amount as well. And as I mentioned, this data could be anytime downloaded in an Excel format too. Now, this was just for mid-cap fund. You could simply use this clear option and type in the SEBI category of your choice. Let's say I'll type in large cap funds. As you keep on changing the SEBI category, the universe that you would be focusing on will automatically change. Now, this data, what we are looking at is currently in a percentage basis because that is what gets selected by default. Let's say you want to see this in terms of value, you could use this toggle button next to percentage. And this would show up values in terms of crores. And the trend remains exactly the same, the heat map meaning green and pink denotes increase or decrease in comparison to the previous month. Now, this sector changes was on the basis of sectors. Next to that is this stock changes. So this tab lets you see the trends of investment made by mutual funds into various stocks. Now here you could toggle between the type of stocks that you are focusing on. Large cap is something that gets selected by default. You could change it accordingly. Let's say I'll just keep it upon large cap only. And here as well, the asset class option is something that you could change. There is a drop down. You could simply click on that and change the asset class accordingly. Equity is what gets selected by default. Now, let's say I focus on HDFC Bank as a stock and I want to see the latest holding of mutual funds into this specific stock. So the heat map structure, as I mentioned, remains the same. Latest data would be always available on the right-hand side of this heat map. Right here, 31st May 2024. So as on that date, 8.4 is the average holding of all the equity mutual funds because your asset class has been selected as equity. So this is the average holding of all the equity mutual funds into HDFC Bank as a stock. And if you want to see which all mutual funds to what extent have made investments, you simply click on that. And it will give you a list of mutual funds. Currently, you could see 419 funds have invested into HDFC Bank as a stock. The name of the funds is what you could see. The percentage of investments done by each fund comes the next column. The corresponding amount can be seen, and as well, what is the equivalent shares is something that could also be seen. And this data as well could be downloaded in an Excel format too. And this as well is a heat map structure which shows you a trend. Uh, you could see it for the last 12 months, starting from 30 June 2023 up until 31st May 2024. Now, if we just look at HDFC Bank as a stock, we'll be able to see that the trend in this specific stock has been increasing from 31st March and up until the latest holding that we are showing. So from on 31st March, it was at 7.9%, which increased in the month of April. It increased to 8.24, which was further increased in the month of May, 8.4%. So we could say that the mutual funds, equity mutual funds, are rather bullish into HDFC Bank as a stock. Trend lets us know this information about investments. Post which, this data that you're seeing, the heat map structure, you could see this in terms of value, which again would be in crores. And as well, you can see this in terms of shares. And this shows shares in terms of lakh. So what has been taken into consideration is very well mentioned under a bracket. Now, this was stock changes wherein you could select any type of stocks from this drop down that you see, large, mid, and small, and search for that specific stock. Let's say you just have the name of a specific stock in your mind and want to run a quick holding analysis on that. For that, you could anytime use this equity holding tab. Here, you could quickly type in the name of any stock. Let's say I type in Kotak Mahindra. Once you type in, you will be able to see what all are the mutual funds that are currently holding into, as of now, Kotak Mahindra as a stock. That is what I have searched. You can see there are 377 funds that have held into Kotak Mahindra, and the total amount comes to 54,200 crore. Now, there are certain columns that you will be able to see right below. I'll explain them. First column lets you see which all are the mutual funds that are holding into Kotak Mahindra as a stock. Next to that, the first three columns, holding in percentage, fund AUM, and holding in crore. So this holding in percentage lets you see what is the amount held by specific mutual fund into that specific stock. Meaning right here, let's say IPRU Nifty Bank ETF holds 8.18% into Kotak Mahindra Bank as a stock. Next to that, the second column has been mentioned as fund AUM. So this is basically the total AUM of the respective fund. Meaning for IPRU Nifty Bank ETF, 3,200 crore is the total AUM of this fund. And out of this total AUM, 8.18 is the percentage that has been invested into Kotak Mahindra Bank as a stock, which comes up to be 267 crore in terms of rupees. Post which there are these three columns that you could see: 1 month, 6 month, and 1 year. So these are specifically the returns, and these returns are specific to each of these funds. Meaning this 8.33 that you could see is the 1 month return of IPRU Nifty Bank ETF. Similarly, right here, if I just scroll down and I'll locate any other fund, SBI Flexi Cap, you see 28.89. So this is the 1 year return of SBI Flexi Cap fund. So these are the returns that are specific to the funds that has been mentioned. And similar analysis you could see in terms of any debt holdings too. You have the name of any debt securities in your mind. You could simply type in right here and look which all are the mutual funds that have invested into that specific debt security. So right here, for by default, HDFC Bank debt security gets selected. You could simply look, these are all the funds that have made investments into this specific debt security. Post which, what you could also see are the ratings of each of these debt securities that has been mentioned. And the following columns would remain exactly same what we had seen in the equity holding columns, which is the holding percentage, fund AUM, and holding in crore. The meaning remains exactly the same what I had shown in this equity holdings tab. Now, this was our holding analysis tab. Now, let's say we go forward with a fund level analysis and we see the asset allocation of that specific fund. So here you could search in the name of any fund. Let's say I'll select iPro Blue Chip Fund. Yeah. So I've loaded in iPro Blue Chip. And in order to locate the holding of that specific fund, here the next tab where you could see asset allocation, fund performance is something that opens up. You need to go to the asset allocation to see the portfolio of that specific fund. Once you just select asset allocation, the very first page that shows up is this overview tab. So under the overview tab, you will be able to see the entire portfolio of this specific fund, which all are the stocks into which it has made investment, what is the percentage of investment, and also lets you see that specific stock is under which market capitalization, large cap, mid cap, or small cap. And you can also see that we have mentioned in the date wherein these holdings are updated, meaning these are the latest update, 31st May 2024. As I mentioned, our update cycle runs from 8th to 13th of the month. Now, next tab that we have in the asset allocation is position changes by month. So this tab lets you see that in comparison to the previous month, what are the largest increases or the largest decreases that has happened, and also lets you know what all are the new positions that have been added or any existing position that has been removed, and lets you see to what extent it has happened. Meaning right now it is showing for 31st May 2024. In comparison to the previous month, what is the increase or decrease in the current month? So you could see that in terms of the largest increase, it has come up for HDFC Bank as a stock. And we also saw in the holding analysis that mutual funds were rather bullish into HDFC Bank as a stock. So iPro Blue Chip is one among that specific fund that is rather bullish upon HDFC Bank as a stock. The largest increase comes to an extent of 1.18%. Now, this was in comparison to the previous month. Let's say I'll select 30th April 2024. Here as well, if we locate, we can see HDFC Bank is again in this largest increase section. So we could understand from this that iPro was rather bullish upon HDFC Bank for the past 2 or 3 months as well. And again, as I mentioned right here, towards the right-hand side, you will be, just a minute, I'll just change in the date. Yeah. The right-hand side would let you see what all are the new positions that has been added. So in terms of new positions, they have added Shri Siemens into their portfolio, and also lets you see what all are the positions that have been removed. And since these are in comparison to the previous month, you will be able to see this for the last 12 months. You could simply click on the drop down and the data would show up for the last 12 months in terms of its
Hello. Hello.
yeah.
Hi, this is Prajakta. I would request if the audience takes all the questions towards the end. We will complete the topic related discussion and we can take the questions after that. Will that be okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Sure. Right. After that, what we have is this positions over time. So this again is like a heat map structure. Here you will be able to see for the last 12 months in this specific stocks, what has been the increase or decrease. As clearly mentioned, red says decrease and green shows increase. This has been clearly mentioned. And this data of increase or decrease could be seen in for the last 12 months. You could use this scroller and move towards the right hand side, wherein you will be able to see the past data. The latest data would be always available once you just go to the positions over time. The first column in terms of data would be the latest data, 31st May 2024. Now, positions over time, you will be able to see this in terms of security as well as in terms of sector changes. Now, I'll just first refer to by securities tab. So here, by securities as well, there are two options that you could see in terms of changes. Once you click on this drop down, there is percentage as well as shares in lakhs. I'll explain these two. I'll just keep it upon percentage. So if at all you see into ICICI Bank as a stock, meaning iPro Blue Chip has invested into ICICI Bank. Right here you see as on 31st May, it is at 8.18. And as on 30th April, it was at 8.49. So there has been a reduction in terms of percentage of investment into ICICI Bank as a stock by iPro Blue Chip. Now, you want to see whether this reduction has happened due to selling off any shares or due to change in the price of that specific stock. That could be seen once you use this option of shares in lakhs. So once I've selected the option of shares in lakhs, right, I'll just locate ICICI Bank. You see the shares for ICICI Bank has remained stagnant or rather same. There is no fluctuation for the last 6 months odd is what we could see. So from this, what we could conclude is that the change in terms of percentage that we saw happened due to the fluctuations in terms of the price of that specific stock. This reduction in percentage that we see happened due to the change in the price of that specific stock. Now, since we were looking at HDFC Bank in the positions changes by month tab, we could anytime locate it right here. We see that there has been an increase in investment from 3.76%. It has been increased to a total of 4.94%. Now, this could be because the price of the stock might have increased or even because the purchase of shares could have happened. As I mentioned, you could anytime use this toggle button of shares in lakh. And right now, I'll just locate HDFC Bank. Yeah. Right here. You see, the shares have also been purchased. As of April or as of May, it was as of May, it is at 178 lakhs. And it has been always mentioned that what is that we consider when we are mentioning it as shares. This is always considered in terms of lakh. So in comparison to the previous months, shares have been brought of HDFC Bank by iPro Blue Chip. Now, this was by security. You could also run an analysis on a sectoral level. There's a toggle button for by sectors. You could simply click on that, and here you could also see a trend, meaning for the past 12 months, the investments into these specific sectors is something that we show. The latest data always available once you just simply click on by sectors. The first column of data that you see always happens to be the latest data. And here as well, we see that iPro Blue Chip is bullish upon banks as a sector. That is the reason it has been mentioned at the very top. And even in banks as a sector, investments has been increased. You see, as of 30th April, it was at 17%, 17.9%. And as of the latest data, the percentage of investment has increased. It came up to a total of 18.81%. And we also have this specific tab of equity sectors, which lets you see the top 10 equity sector into which the fund has made investments. So again, right here, as I mentioned, banks is a sector, it shows up right here. And within banks as a sector, which all other stocks? You simply click on the bar graph, you will be able to see the entire list of stocks under that specific sector. So top 10 equity sector is what we show. So here it is banks, followed by automobiles and refineries, and so on. And the percentage of exposure, percentage of investment is also something that we show. And this data, you could download it in an Excel format as well. Everywhere you see the CSV button that is also available in this positions over time. You could download this table entirely in an Excel format as well. Now, this was our holding analysis. The final topic for today is the daily dynamic NAV report that could be generated by going to the Funds tab. So in the Funds tab, you will be able to see this tab as reports. You could simply click on this, and daily NAV report is what gets generated on our platform. So there are two options that you could do. There are mainly either you could come onto the platform and click on this Excel download option, and the Excel of NAV reports get generated. If not, you could simply subscribe. So on a daily basis at around 10:30 or 10:45, the NAV report would be received on your mail ID. And it would be received on your registered mail ID with NGEN. You'll be able to see the mail ID on which you'll get the NAV report. Now I'll just load in the NAV report. So this is how the first page of the NAV report would look like. You could simply click on the category. 4 buckets is what we show, which are basically the asset classes. You could simply click on the category. So these are hyperlinks. This would take you to that page which shows the funds under that specific category. So you can see as on yesterday's date, what was the NAV, what was the total expense, the entire data for that specific category is what we show. You could also see in the category average data as well. So these are generated on our platform on a daily basis. And as I mentioned, there are two sources for having this data on your end. All right. So that is it for the topic related webinar. If you have any query, you can either unmute yourself or type down your questions in the chat box.
So we've got one comment wherein there's a requirement that it would be better to if we freeze the first three columns in positions over time. Sure, we've noted that down as a developmental feedback. We will try to work on that.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so I have just one question.
Yes,
So when I go to funds column, right, can you
yes,
just select the funds column? Yeah.
yes.
So in this list, for example, if I'm choosing a category, example large cap,
Okay,
there'll be a few funds which comes up.
correct.
Yeah. Now, if I want to compare only 5 to 6 months,
Right.
so if I choose, I mean, how do I choose and take it to, because the option given is at top 50 to compare, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
how do we do that? Yeah.
Sure. So let's say you just want to take iPro Blue Chip, JM, and HDFC Top 100. Okay, these are the three
Mm-hmm.
funds that you are looking to take to the compare section.
Mm-hmm.
First, you just ensure that the compare section is clear of any components, right? In this case, you see there is nothing in the compare section, right? You again go back to the funds section and you see a small icon beside on the left hand side of the fund that's called add to compare. You simply click on that and you will see that box change to green tick. That means that this fund has been added to the compare section. So this is how you can take a selective list of 4 or 5 funds that you want, that you have in mind, to the compare section one by one. So that can be done.
Oh, okay, got it. And one more question I had. So yesterday I was going through multi-asset funds, so
Yeah.
wherein I was not able to see the composition of gold in it. So can you tell me like where could I find this information?
Sure. Were you looking at a particular
Yeah, I can see you the fund also. For example, HSBC multi-asset fund. So yeah, I was not able to locate the gold composition of it.
HSBC multi-asset?
Yeah, correct.
Sure. Let's try to locate that. All right. So is the gold exposure through any ETF? Can you just check on Indian mutual funds if there is any ETF right there? All right. So we will check this with our data provider. If there is any issue with the gold or commodity capturing as such, we'll have to raise this with our data provider.
As I checked with the RM, right? So it was around, he was mentioning around 14%. So I just wanted to cross-check it. So if you can just come with that.
Sure, definitely. We'll check this with our data provider on the commodities exposure on the portfolio.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
All right, there's another question in the chat box which says, can we also search for particular date for NAVs? Yes, I mean, typically, if you are looking for a time series or for that matter, entire NAV series, what you can typically do is you can just click on a particular fund. It will get open like this, right, in a new tab. You specify the date range. Let's say you are looking to generate a NAV series for a month's time duration. Let's say May 2024. So 1st of May to 31st of May, for an example, right? You simply change the start dates from here. Just put a customized start date. So let's say 1st of May to let's say current, right? 20th of June. And then you see this at the right blue download prices into CSV icon. You can simply click on that and the entire NAV series along with the date series will get plotted into an Excel sheet. Basically, it will get downloaded and you can definitely look at whichever date you're looking for. So that can be done.
Project Hi, this is Kapil here. Can you just guide me
Yes.
how to take out the net equity exposure into balance as well as equity savings category?
Sure. So if you see in the compare section itself, we have added this shorts, percentage shorts positions when you scroll on the right hand side, right? Because in this case, these are all the funds that typically do not have any net equity. This dash here, but if you load a balanced advantage, so let's say HDFC balanced advantage, or for that matter, any equity savings fund, you will get that plotted right here in the compare section. Let this get loaded, and there's another way of checking that. We will show you that as well. Okay, so we have loaded HDFC balance advantage and that is coming at the top. So equity, gross equity is 65, short positions are 11.66%, and therefore the net equity is 53.77, right? If you want to check this in detail as to what all short positions are there, you simply click on the portfolio of, you just need to click to load the entire detailed portfolio of that particular fund. It will get open in a new tab and then follow the same procedure. Because this is a balanced advantage fund, so all the short positions will come as a separate label item at the top into red, which will say, okay, short positions have been found, and you can simply click to view the short positions. We will load that in a while. Yeah, so you see at the top, 11.66% short positions. You simply click on show shorts. These are the short positions that are taken by the particular fund. If you want, of course, this, because you have clicked apply shorts, so what gets shown on the left hand side is the net equity. Let's say you want to see the gross equity, you just untick apply shorts, and from 53 you will see the percentage has increased to 65, right? So this is the gross and the other one was net, so you can check it from here.
Thank you. Just one more query.
Yes.
As far as when we add funds on the compare section, the
Yes.
pink labeled, tabulated column, it also
Yes.
includes the information ratio. Ideally,
Yes.
should show the information ratio in comparison to the benchmark index. But
Correct.
many a times, what happens is it goes towards the towards the integrated fund. So what happens is if we delete one fund, the information ratio would change accordingly. If you can just try that once.
Sure. So in this case, I mean, just for an example's sake, I'm going to add a benchmark, which is maybe a Nifty 100. And the moment we do that, information ratio as a parameter will get loaded. So this is Nifty 100 because we have a couple of large caps in the list, right? So you need to ensure that the date is chosen here. So I think we have a younger fund, HSBC multi-asset. If we can delete that, it's a 0.31-year-old fund. That's why the start date is getting restricted at 1st of March. Now the funds that we have in the list are very, very old, at least of 16-year-old fund. And now we need to ensure that the start dates of the funds as well as the benchmark is the same, right? So let's say we want to do this analysis for the last 3 years, or yeah, so just you put 2021, 1st of June for the index, which in this case is Nifty 100, and the same date has to be ensured in the returns column as well, right? Only then it will be a fair comparison. So 1st of June 2021, and you hit go. Now the information ratio that you see is typically, so for example, GM large cap, right? Information ratio is 1.93 when you compare that with a Nifty 100.
So if you can just delete the HDFC balance advantage.
Sure, sure. Yes, so the moment we delete a fund, information ratio will be there. But what happens is, what changes is the start date of the benchmark, because now it will take the youngest fund ka start date, right? So in this case, the youngest fund, whichever it is, it takes the start date. You'll have to just ensure that you change it back to what you had chosen at the start.
Understood.
So I think
but this is a never-ending marathon, right? Just a feedback that if we are not adding a fund which is younger enough than what the current funds are, ideally the date should not change, because this is something which has happened and I couldn't even identify it. Yeah.
Sure, understand. Point taken. We will just write down on fixing the start date if we put that, if there's a younger fund as such, right? So we'll
just put it down. That if the new date is before the date, then we won't change it.
Yes, right. Noting this down. Yes, sir, you're audible. Please go ahead. Yes.
तो मैडम नमस्ते, बहुत अच्छा प्रेजेंटेशन आपका चल रहा है। मैं एक प्रश्न पूछना चाह रहा हूँ, हो सकता है आज के सब्जेक्ट से रिलेटेड नहीं हो ये।
हाँ, बताइए।
हमारे पास जो पोर्टफोलियो है क्लाइंट का यहाँ पे सिस्टम में, उसको हमको चेक करना है कि वो कितना सही है आपके हिसाब से, या उसमें क्या क्या चेंजेस होना चाहिए, ये हम कैसे कंपेयर करेंगे?
ऑलराइट सर, सो ये कंपेयर करने के लिए हमारा डिटेल पोर्टफोलियो एनालिटिक्स टैब है। आपका जो भी पोर्टफोलियो जहाँ पे भी है, क्लाइंट सेक्शन में है या फिर पोर्टफोलियो सेक्शन में है, जहाँ पे भी है, आप उसको क्लिक करके रन करिए फॉर पोर्टफोलियो एनालिटिक्स, राइट? जैसे ही आप लोड करोगे उसको, एक डिटेल्ड एनालिटिक्स ओपन होगा ऑन डिफरेंट पैरामीटर्स। उसमें से फर्स्ट पैरामीटर होगा परफॉर्मेंस, राइट? परफॉर्मेंस पैरामीटर में हम ये चेक करते हैं कि वो पर्टिकुलर पोर्टफोलियो बेंचमार्क को बीट कर पा रहा है या नहीं कर पा रहा, और अगर कर पा रहा है तो कौन से पैरामीटर्स पे कर पा रहा है। लेट्स से एक यहाँ पे इन दिस केस ये जो हमने पोर्टफोलियो लोड किया है वो आउट परफॉर्मेंस जनरेट करके दे रहा है, क्योंकि जो ब्लू लाइन है वो पोर्टफोलियो परफॉर्मेंस की लाइन है, एंड द ब्लैक लाइन जो दिख रही है दैट्स द बेंचमार्क। तो आपको दिख रहा है कि क्यूमुलेटिव रिटर्न मतलब total return, absolute return point to point of this portfolio for the last 5 years, 2019 से, क्योंकि वो हमने स्टार्ट डेट चूज करी हुई है, उस टाइम से 161% रिटर्न रहा आपके पोर्टफोलियो का, वर्सेस आपके बेंचमार्क का रिटर्न रहा 96%, राइट? तो देयर इज अ क्लियर आउट परफॉर्मेंस दैट इज जनरेटेड बाय योर पोर्टफोलियो, वो आप देख सकते हो। अभी ये आउट परफॉर्मेंस जनरेट करने के लिए कितनी रिस्क ली पोर्टफोलियो ने, तो वो यहाँ पे दिखता है इन एनुअल वॉलेटिलिटी, राइट? सो दैट्स 11% बाय द पोर्टफोलियो, जो एसेट बोलते हैं हम उसको, एंड बेंचमार्क ने साइमल्टेनियसली उतना ही रिटर्न जनरेट के लिए, इनफैक्ट लेस रिटर्न जनरेट करने के लिए ज्यादा रिस्क ली। सो आपका पोर्टफोलियो का शार्प रेशो व्हिच इज टिपिकली रिस्क एडजस्टेड रिटर्न्स ज्यादा है बेंचमार्क से। तो ये एक मेजर पैरामीटर हो गया टू चेक परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ द पोर्टफोलियो ऑन अ ओवरऑल बेसिस। सेकेंडली, आप ऑल्सो देख सकते हो कि कंपोनेंट्स जो है पोर्टफोलियो में, राइट, उनमें से कौन से ज्यादा कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं टू पोर्टफोलियो रिटर्न यूजिंग दिस कंट्रीब्यूशन एनालिसिस टैब। वहां पे आपको दिखेगा कि फॉर एग्जांपल ये सब इक्वली एलोकेटेड पोर्टफोलियो लिया हुआ है हमने एग्जांपल के तौर पे, लेकिन आप देख सकते हो हर एक फंड का टोटल रिटर्न अलग अलग है। फॉर एग्जांपल क्वांट स्मॉल कैप उसका एलोकेशन पोर्टफोलियो में 4.5% ही है, 14.29, आपको ऊपर दिख रहा है। एवरीथिंग इज इक्वली एलोकेटेड 14.29%। बट क्योंकि उसका टोटल रिटर्न इन द लास्ट 5 years टाइम पीरियड ऑलमोस्ट 450 था, 450%, राइट? तो उसका कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन टू द ओवरऑल पोर्टफोलियो रिटर्न इज अ 34%, विच इज ह्यूज एज कंपेयर टू फॉर एग्जाम्पल एक्सिस फोकस 25 फंड, राइट? उसका रिटर्न ही कम रहा तो उसका कंट्रीब्यूशन भी कम रहा। तो अगर ये फंड हटा दिया जाए पोर्टफोलियो से और थोड़ा ज्यादा एलोकेशन दिया जाए टू कॉन्ट स्मॉल कैप, ऑफ कोर्स कंसिडरिंग द रिस्क एपेटाइट ऑफ द क्लाइंट, तो आपके पोर्टफोलियो का रिटर्न भी जंप होगा, राइट? तो ये डिसीजन एनालिसिस पैरामीटर हो गया सेकंड। मल्टीपल है ऐसे, ये तो बस 2 एग्जांपल्स हो गए। ये बेसिस पे आप
इसमें कुछ
डेफिनेटली
आप लोगों
पोर्टफोलियो
का भी
एनालिसिस।
रिकमेंडेशन रहता है कि ये पोर्टफोलियो में ये चेंज कर सकते हैं ऐसा करके?
सर, जो हमारा रिकमेंडेशन होता है दैट विल ओनली बी ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ एल्गोरिदम्स, ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द क्वांटिटेटिव रीएलोकेशन। मतलब हम ये नहीं डायरेक्टली बोल सकते कि आप ये फंड हटाओ, ये फंड ऐड करो, बिकॉज वी डू नॉट हैव एडवाइजरी लाइसेंस। जो हम कर सकते हैं वो इम्प्रूव फंक्शन को यूज करके आपको एक ऑप्टिमल एलोकेशन दे सकते हैं। लेट्स से आपका ये जो करंट पोर्टफोलियो है जो आपने स्टार्ट किया, दैट इज अ इक्वली एलोकेटेड पोर्टफोलियो, लेकिन आप जिस क्लाइंट को डील कर रहे हो वो थोड़ा कंजर्वेटिव क्लाइंट है, राइट? मतलब उसको ज्यादा रिस्क नहीं लेनी, ही काइंड ऑफ वांट्स टू बी ऑन अ कंजर्वेटिव साइड या मॉडरेट साइड। तो आप उनको क्या एलोकेशन दोगे? तो वो मिनिमम वॉलेटिलिटी मॉडल आपको हेल्प करेगा। लेकिन प्लीज नोट हियर, हम कोई फंड ऐड नहीं करने वाले, नीदर कोई फंड डिलीट करने वाले हैं। हम बस एलोकेशंस कैसे होना चाहिए ये कंपोनेंट्स का पोर्टफोलियो में जो है वो बताएंगे। और वो आपको जो दिख रहा है 19.28, 38.57, 9.64, ये वो फंड्स का एलोकेशन है, कितना वेटेज होना चाहिए उसका पोर्टफोलियो में। तो ये आप सेव भी कर सकते हो। इस तौर पे
अब
आपको
इसमें
रेडीमेड हेल्प
मुझे,
मिलेगा। यस, बताइए।
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि ये वैल्यू मॉडल और रैंकिंग मॉडल को मैं कैसे समझूं?
सर, टिपिकली ये एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए हमने एक पूरा वेबिनार कंडक्ट भी किया है। अगर आपको स्पेसिफिकली 1-to-1 सेशन में चाहिए तो हम डेफिनेटली करेंगे, बट ऑन अ ओवरऑल बेसिस आई विल टेल यू रैंकिंग मॉडल्स थोड़े
मुझे कोई दिक्कत नहीं,
कंसंट्रेटेड
आप इतना
अप्रोच।
समझा दीजिए कि अगर मैं इसको कोई भी सेव करता हूँ
हाँ
तो वो रिपोर्ट मुझे कहाँ दिख रही है, कैसे दिख रही
हाँ, तो लेट्स से हमें मिनिमम हमने ये रैंक शार्प सेव करना है हमें, तो ये डिफॉल्ट आ जाएगा ऑलविन डैश ऑप्टिमाइज, जो आप चेंज कर सकते हो, विच वी हैव चेंज टू शार्प। आप जैसे क्रिएट करोगे तो वो आएगा, ओके प्लीज वेट एंड पोर्टफोलियो सेव्ड। अभी आप क्लोज करिए, क्योंकि ये हमने इम्प्रूव फंक्शन यूज करके सेव किया है। तो आप वो जो कोलैप्स ऑल जो हमने अभी अंशु ने नेविगेट किया, कोलैप्स ऑल करिए और वहां पे एक फोल्डर है फ्रॉम इम्प्रूव, वहां पे बस क्लिक करिए प्लस आइकॉन पे और आपको दिखेगा आज का डेट, मतलब 21 जून। अभी हमने पौने पौने 5 बजे सेव कर लिया एलोकेशन, तो आपको यहाँ पे दिखेगा वो पोर्टफोलियो, क्योंकि हमने
कैसा
इम्प्रूव
दिखेगा?
फंक्शन यूज करके उसको रन किया है। आपको डिटेल एनालिसिस चाहिए, हम 1-to-1 सेशन शेड्यूल करवा के
तो
एक्सप्लेन
जरूर,
कर देंगे
पहले
आपको।
केवल 1 मिनट इसको दिखा दीजिए, फिर
हाँ
हम इसको ये
श्योर, जैसे हमने ये पोर्टफोलियो लोड कर लिया, दिस इज विद कस्टमाइज्ड वेट्स जो हमने अभी सेव किया था यूजिंग द शार्प रेशियो एज अ पैरामीटर, रैंकिंग ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ शार्प। तो देखिए, पहले इक्वली एलोकेटेड पोर्टफोलियो था, अभी चेंज हो गया उसका एलोकेशंस,
एकदम अच्छे हो गए उनके।
बेटर हो गया, क्योंकि प्रीवियस परफॉर्मेंस कुछ 161% था, अभी और जंप हो गया, राइट? सो 258%। कंट्रीब्यूशन पे भी देखोगे उसी के हिसाब से उसने ज्यादा एलोकेशन दे दिया क्वांट को। देखिए, हाईएस्ट एलोकेटेड फंड है अभी क्वांट, क्यों? क्योंकि उसका शार्प रेशो सबसे ज्यादा है, राइट? इसके लिए उसको ज्यादा एलोकेशन दे दिया। वही हमने अभी स्ट्रेटेजाइज किया था, हाइपोथेसाइज किया था कंट्रीब्यूशन एनालिसिस के बेसिस पे कि भैया इसको बढ़ाओ वेटेज, तो वही बोला ऑप्टिमाइजर मॉडल ने भी।
हम्म, ठीक है, मेरी बात। ठीक है मैडम, थैंक यू, बहुत अच्छे से
ऑलराइट,
समझाया आपने, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मैम।
थैंक यू। All right, there's another question in the chat box which says, um, creating of model portfolios, allocating some percentage of amount. All right, so you can use the fund scores, right, which is a score between 0 to 10 that is given to each and every fund in the categories, to actually come up with better performing funds, right? You can create model portfolios by using the fund scores, by specifying just the categories that you are looking for, right? Once you specify the categories, you take top performing, or for that matter top rated funds from each of them, and then create that into a portfolio using the compare section. Once you do that, they'll get saved in the portfolio section, and then you can run a detailed portfolio analytics. Of course, this is a entirely new webinar topic. Typically, if you want to have a one-on-one discussion on this training session, we can get that arranged. Will be very difficult to answer in like 5-10 minutes.
Oh, there is one more question from my side. Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, like, when we go to a compare section, right? So if I'm comparing the funds with the index, so is there any restriction of comparing those funds with, like, or we can use as many indexes as we want? So is there any restriction of such that?
No,
Because I
there's no
tried using it, but
yeah.
after 3 to 4, the data is not showing up. So that's why.
No. There is no restriction. What would have happened is, do you face the error that everything gets white, meaning the data is not
Correct.
visible?
Yeah,
Yeah,
data is not
so
there. Again, I have to
this
go
is a
to
small
the
bug.
main.
We're trying to fix that. What you can do is something like this. The view would be something like this. All you need to do is to troubleshoot this, click on the small table icon that you see just below main list. The moment you
Okay.
click on that, all columns tick would have gotten disappeared. You just simply need to tick that box. All of the data will reappear again, because there is no limit as to
Okay.
how many components you can add in the compare section. This is just a bug that we're trying to fix, but you please use this and your issue will get resolved.
Okay, thank you.
All right. There is another question in the chat box which says, how can we see the all equity debt benchmark comparison? All right. So you see in the compare section, we have a list of 162 benchmarks, right? Or indices that are available. What you can do is you can add these indices as many as you want. So let's say you are comparing all the sectors, right? Nifty sectors. So you just need to add them one by one. And once you do that keying in effort, you need not repeat it the second time, because you can save that as a watch list. As you can see, go to the main list, and we've already created Ansu is sharing the screen. She's already created a list of all 7 or 8 NSC indices, or BSE sectors for that matter. Once you've saved this list, you just need to reload it again. So it's just one-time effort wherein you can add all of the sectoral indices that you're looking for, right? And you can save that as a list right there. This is how you can do it, not just for equity, but also for debt. For debt, we have CCIL bond index, we have T-bill, right? Those are the indices that you could use.
Ma'am, can you explain it once again?
All right. So I was saying that if you want to add sectoral indices, or for that matter, any benchmarks, right, and compare only benchmarks performance with each other, then in the compare section, you will have this add other items toggle, or other box at the top, which we are highlighting with a pointer right now, with a mouse pointer, right? Just there in the blue box, you see search indices and into bracket 161. So we have a list of 162 indices. You can just take them one by one, whichever you want. Let's say you want to build a watch list kind of a thing for all of your benchmarks, right? You add them one by one. And once you have that list ready, let's say in this case, you have a list of some 15 odd indices that you have added, right? Once it is ready, it's just one time effort you have to do. Once it is there in the compare section, you simply save that list by going at the top on the left hand side, right? Just type in a list, okay, benchmarks watch list, WL. There's a character limit, so do not put very long names. So try to make it as concise as possible. And then click on the save this list icon. Once you do that, that list of indices or benchmarks, whatever you've created, will get saved in this my lists, right? And the next time you log in on NGEN Markets, you simply have to click on that list and the entire components from that list will get loaded, right? So this is just one time effort that you'll have to do of adding in the benchmarks one by one and making a watch list.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. There's another question which says, can we also search for particular date for NAV? Adding in a particular set. Sorry, I don't understand your question, Miss Shruti Gupta. Could you please elaborate a little on your question? All right. If you mean if you want to download all the NAVs, right? Latest NAVs of all the funds in a particular sector, yes, that can be done, right? You just go to the compare section, reset everything, make the compare section clear. There is this add groups as a category at the top panel. You can simply choose any category. Let's say contra, right? There's a list of 3 funds from contra as a category. You simply take the entire category. All the funds from that category will get loaded like this. So in this case, there are just 3. So SBI, Investment, Kotak, they'll get loaded right here. And the 4th column that you can see right there in the compare section is the price column, which is typically the latest NAV, right? And you can download this into an Excel sheet and have it for your record. Similarly, you can take this for every category, every subcategory basically. So that can be done. Yes.
Prajakta, hi, this is Kapil here again.
Yes.
Just a small thing on the client analysis section, which is called as clients. Generally,
Yes.
what happens is all the funds as a portfolio are being categorized into one portfolio and it's being shown as, the analysis has been shown as. Just a recommendation and not a query, but just a recommendation in case if we can bifurcate into a equity, debt, and ultra short or something of that sort kind of tabs, so that if we want to analyze equity and fixed income part on long and short term, probably that will help us better in terms of getting a lot of client analysis done on that particular part. So just a recommendation.
Sure. So what you can do is this, of course, I understand there's some amount of manual intervention that will be required from your end, but this is possible to do on the
Yeah,
platform. Yeah,
when
you
we
can split
put
it.
on
Yeah,
into the
copy that to the
compare.
manual data. Yes,
No, but
yes,
what
yes.
happens is the percentage allocation keeps changing, right? So if I get into the compare section, what happens is it is a manual thing that I can do, which I always do. But then when I convert it into a portfolio and I try to analyze that equity side, say for example, there are 5 funds. It is by default 2020 2020. Then I have to manually go and calculate each and every fund's percentage allocation on the equity side, and then accordingly make analysis, right? Which is too much of manual part. So if that can be done here, because not all funds are being allocated on a single percentage platform, so it becomes
Understand.
difficult.
I'll give you a better alternative. So you go to
Mhm.
the clients section. Let's say I think you want to do this for one of your RTA clients. Of course, any editing in the RTA tab will not be possible. Therefore, can you please click on Pranav Dalal? We are loading in a RTA client's portfolio, right? The moment the portfolio gets loaded, you simply use this that button that you see just beside the Excel. Copy this to the manual data tab. The moment you do that, you go to the manual data tab that's right beside RTA connection. Again, load for that particular client. So in this case, it was Pranav Dalal. Yeah, so click on that. It will get like this. Now here you can edit it, right? So you go edit this portfolio, and you can typically split the portfolio, equity portfolio into one, and the debt portfolio as other, and then run analytics individually. So that can be done here in the manual data tab. Alternatively, you can do the same exercise in the portfolio section, but any modifications in the RTA tab will not be possible. So you'll have to either take that portfolio in the manual data tab or the portfolios tab. I think portfolio tabs will work better. That's because in the portfolio tab, you also get a identification whether that fund is a debt category or for that matter,
Can
a
you,
equity category.
sorry, I don't mean to cut you, but can you just rerun this? Your voice got hanged, so I couldn't hear you properly. I'm extremely sorry for
Sure.
that.
I will do that. I'll do that. So, in fact, we'll give you a better alternative. So in this case, RT connection, this is where your ARN client is, right? And let's say the name of that client is Pranav Dalal, right? We are loading his portfolio right here. And now you copy that to the portfolio section, right? Using that small button. So you copy that to the portfolio section. It will say, okay, done. Please check in portfolios. In the portfolio section, you collapse everything. And because this is taken from the clients tab, you will see this folder from clients. You will see Pranav Dalal's name right there. You click on the drop down and you say edit or save as.
Okay.
Right? The moment you click on edit or save as, you will see a list of all the funds that he has in his portfolio, of course, in different categories. In this case, it happens to be all equity, but let's say there would have been any debt funds. There would be a separate row that would be with debt, right? And then here is where you can use to split his equity portfolio and save it separately, and then repeat the same process and save his debt portfolio as another portfolio. So Pranav Dalal equity, Pranav Dalal debt, right? Of course, there's manual intervention that is involved, but this will save the effort of equal allocation, or for that matter, reskilling to 100. That will be done by the system itself.
Understood.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. Any more questions? Please let us know.
मैडम मेरा नाम विश्वास देशपांडे है। आपने बोला था कि हाउ आई कैन फाइंड आउट कि एचडीएफसी बैंक विद इन लास्ट 6 months और 1 month कितना उसका व्हाट वी कैन से इंक्रीज हो गया रेट।
हाँ,
हाउ आई
yes.
कैन फाइंड आउट।
तो एचडीएफसी बैंक इज अ स्टॉक बोल रहे हो आप? Hello. So if you refer to that as a stock, हाँ, तो आप directly ऊपर जा सकते हैं search stock के तौर पे, वहां पे just type in the name of the stock, right? HDFC Bank Limited. You click on that, that will get open in a new tab, and here you can see the trend, right? Is the price going up or down, right? So that can be checked right there in the performance tab.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, if there are no more questions, we can close for today, Ansu.
Yes. Thank you all for joining in. You can anytime visit our YouTube page. The link is available right inside the platform itself. Simply click on that. We have a dedicated playlist for all the webinars that have been conducted up until now. So total of 116 webinars have been uploaded. Today's webinar will also be uploaded by next week. Thank you all for joining in. Hope to see you again next week with a new topic. Thank you.